Look, let's be honest, America's global report card is looking a little rough around the edges these days. It seems like every other week there's a new diplomatic spat brewing, a trade war simmering, or an old ally deciding they'd rather sit at a different lunch table. It's enough to make even the most patriotic American want to crawl under a rock and just emerge when we've figured out this whole getting along with others thing. But before we all retreat into our respective bunkers, let's take a closer look at the countries leading the charge away from the good old US of A, shall we? We're talking about nations swapping military partnerships like they're trading cards, harboring some serious geopolitical grudges, and generally making it clear that the feeling is decidedly mutual. So buckle up, Buttercup, because we're about to dive headfirst into the murky waters of international relations, where the only thing deeper than the Pacific Ocean is the apparent resentment some countries seem to have for yours truly, America. Ah, Brazil, land of samba, sunshine, and now, seemingly a simmering resentment toward the United States. You see, our relationship with Brazil used to be as warm as a day on Copacabana Beach, full of shared interests, trade partnerships, and maybe the occasional awkward tango over agricultural subsidies. But lately things have gotten a bit frosty, and I'm not just talking about the caipirinhas. Brazil, under its new, let's say, assertive leadership, has been flexing its geopolitical muscles, and it turns out those muscles are looking for a new dance partner. Gone are the days when Brazil would waltz to the tune of Washington's foreign policy. These days they're more interested in leading the conga line of developing nations, with China and Russia right there shaking their maracas alongside. So, what happened? Well, for starters, there's the whole issue of the Amazon rainforest, which, as you can imagine, is a touchy subject for a country that houses a good chunk of it. When the US dared to suggest, however politely, that maybe, just maybe, clear-cutting the Amazon for cattle ranching wasn't the most environmentally sound idea, well, let's just say it didn't go down too well in Brasilia. Then there's the small matter of trade. Remember all those juicy agricultural deals we used to have? Yeah, those are starting to dry up faster than a puddle in the Atacama Desert. Brazil's found itself a new best friend in China, who, with its insatiable appetite for soybeans and iron ore, is more than happy to gobble up everything Brazil's got to offer. And let's not forget the whole America doesn't really seem to care about Latin America unless it involves drugs or dictators thing. It's a sentiment that's been simmering for decades, and frankly, who can blame them? We haven't exactly been the most attentive neighbor, popping in mostly when there's a crisis or, a canal we need to control, so yeah, things are a little tense between us and Brazil right now. They're out there forging their own path, playing the field, and generally making it clear that they're not afraid to samba their way into the arms of a new global partner. And who knows, maybe a little distance is what our relationship needs. After all, absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? Or in this case, maybe it just makes room for more soybeans on Chinese cargo ships. Ah, Turkey, the land of ancient history, delicious kebabs, and a foreign policy that's more tangled than a plate of Turkish delight. Our relationship with Turkey has always been complicated, to say the least. We're NATO allies, sure, but we also have this nasty habit of, well, constantly getting on each other's nerves. But lately, things have gone beyond your usual diplomatic spat. We're talking full-on diplomatic shouting match complete with accusations, sanctions, and enough passive-aggressive maneuvering to make a chess grandmaster blush. Remember that whole survey that came out? The one where a whopping 68% of Turkish citizens said they see the US as a threat? Yeah, that wasn't exactly a ringing endorsement of our enduring friendship. It turns out, decades of feeling patronized, misunderstood, and generally taken for granted by the West will do that to a country. And honestly, who can blame them for feeling a little burned? There was that whole incident back in 2016, the attempted coup, where Turkey felt like we were more interested in reading them the riot act about human rights than helping them restore order. And let's not even get started on our support for the Kurds in Syria, a group that Turkey views with about as much fondness as a porcupine in a balloon factory. Then there's the issue of Russia. You see, while we've been busy trying to isolate Putin on the world stage, Turkey's been over there cozying up to him like they're old drinking buddies. They're buying Russian missile defense systems, striking energy deals, and generally acting like the sanctions we've imposed are nothing more than a minor inconvenience. And look, I get it. Turkey's in a tough neighborhood. They've got Syria on one side, Iran on the other, and a whole lot of instability brewing in between. They're looking out for number one, just like any country would. But it still stings a little, you know? To see a country we once considered a key ally drifting further and further away, embracing the very power we're trying to contain, it's enough to make you wonder if maybe, just maybe, we need to rethink our approach. Maybe instead of lecturing Turkey on how they should run their country, we should try listening to their concerns. Maybe instead of treating them like a pawn in our geopolitical chess game, we should treat them like a partner, an equal. Or maybe, just maybe, it's already too late. Maybe the damage is done. Maybe Turkey's already decided that its future lies not with the West, but with a new set of allies. Allies who, for better or worse, seem to understand them a little better. And if that's the case, well, then all we can do is watch and hope that this whole frenemy thing doesn't escalate into something worse. Chapter 3. South Africa, the Rainbow Nation finds new colors. Ah, South Africa, a nation that knows a thing or two about breaking free from the shackles of oppression. They stared down apartheid, they danced in the streets when Mandela walked free, and now it seems they're ready to break free from another kind of influence, ours. You see, South Africa's been on a bit of a geopolitical journey lately. They're tired of being seen as just another pawn in the West's game, another voice in the chorus singing the praises of democracy and free markets. They want to chart their own course, forge their own path, and maybe, just maybe, stick it to the former colonial powers while they're at it. And who can blame them? For years, South Africa's been told to pick a side, the West, with its promises of investment and aid, or the East, with its allure of non-interference and solidarity among developing nations. But South Africa, it seems, is done playing by someone else's rules. They're choosing a third way, a path that aligns with their own interests, even if it means ruffling a few feathers along the way. Take, for instance, the whole Russia situation. While the West's been busy slapping sanctions on Russia like they're going out of style, South Africa's been over there shaking hands, making deals, and generally acting like the global pariah in the room is just their eccentric, misunderstood uncle. They've refused to condemn the invasion of Ukraine, they're still happily buying Russian oil, and they're even participating in joint military exercises with the Russian Navy. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's outrageous. Don't they know Russia's the bad guy here? And to that I say, well, it's complicated. South Africa sees things a little differently. They remember the Cold War. They remember who supported their liberation struggle while the West was still cozying up to the apartheid regime. But it's not just about history, it's about the future. South Africa sees China and Russia as rising powers, powerhouses of the New World Order, and they want to be on the winning team. They see the writing on the wall, and that writing says that the days of Western dominance are numbered. So, yeah, South Africa's making a statement. They're telling the world that they're not afraid to stand up for what they believe in, even if it means standing alone. They're charting their own course, and whether we like it or not, they're taking a page out of our own playbook, declaring independence, forging their own destiny, and telling the rest of the world, don't tread on me. Only this time, it's not a bunch of colonists in powdered wigs saying it. It's a nation that knows a thing or two about fighting for its freedom, and they're not afraid to do it again, even if it means going up against their old friends. So there you have it, 3 countries, 3 very different stories, but all with one common thread, a growing disillusionment with the United States and a willingness to forge their own paths, even if it means leaving us behind. Now, I'm not saying that America's about to be relegated to the dustbin of history. We're still the world's biggest economy. We still have the most powerful military, and we still have Beyoncé. But we can't rest on our laurels. We can't assume that our global dominance is a given, something that will just magically continue forever. The world is changing, and we need to change with it. We need to listen more, lecture less. We need to build genuine partnerships, not just transactional relationships. We need to show the world that America, despite its flaws, is still a force for good in the world. Otherwise, we might just find ourselves on the outside looking in, wondering where it all went wrong. And trust me, nobody wants to see that, least of all the poor saps who have to explain it all on television every week.